Balotelli, Aguero!
Welcome to the Sporty Bet Club. Sporty Bet Club is the sportytrader.com podcast dedicated to football betting tips. This podcast is powered by artificial intelligence but based on the knowledge of our betting experts and data from sportytrader.com. The idea of this podcast is simple: to give you the best possible advice to help you succeed in your sports betting tips. Hello, I'm Greg, an international football expert, and this is SBC, the Sporty Bet Club. Before we start, let me thank our partner, one of the most popular bookmakers in the world, Bet365. All the odds that appear in this podcast come from them. By the way, don't forget to use the exclusive code STYVIP1 when you register at Bet365. I repeat, STYVIP1. Don't forget it, this will get you a great welcome offer. To join me on this adventure, I welcome Harry, also an international football expert and a Premier League specialist in particular. Hi Harry, how are you?
Well, thank you. Hi everyone, and thank you Greg for welcoming me to this podcast that we've all been waiting for. I'm very excited to be taking part in this project, which I'm sure all football fans will love.
So Harry, to start things off, we've decided to go for a slightly unusual concept, as we're going to give you our predictions for the coming season, by championship. Today we start with England and the Premier League.
That's right, we're going to give you our champion, our top four, our European qualifiers, the teams who'll be going down, the top scorers and much more. You'll have everything you need to make your bets. Obviously, all the data that appears in this podcast comes from our site sportytrader.com. The most popular site among bettors and sports fans, where you'll find tips, odds and betting guides. So grab a notebook and a pen, and take notes.
We're going to start straight away with the prediction for the future champion. Sportytrader.com highlights Manchester City as potential winners. The citizens are once again the big favourites with odds of 1.73. But let's have some fun imagining other possibilities. For my part, it may seem surprising, but I see Liverpool winning the Premier League. Last season was a very complicated one for the Reds, who finished outside the top four. Fifth and without Champions League qualification, Klopp's men will have to play in the Europa League this season. The German coach will probably rotate his team in Europe, at least during the group stage matches, and will be able to focus on the Premier League. Champions of England in 2020, the Reds have seen Manchester City win the last three championships. Pep Guardiola's men will once again be the team to beat this season. But last year's treble could also mean a drop in motivation for the citizens. Klopp's men, on the other hand, are hungry for victories and titles. On paper, the team looks better than Arsenal, Man United or Chelsea, with Nunez eagerly awaited after a first season of adaptation, Mohamed Salah always on top, and Diogo Jota returning to form. Henderson and Fabinho's departures and Thiago's recurring injuries have prompted Klopp to rethink his midfield. The arrivals of Dominik Szoboszlai from Leipzig for €70 million and Argentinian world champion Alexis McAllister from Brighton should allow Klopp to face the future with confidence. Liverpool's thirst for revenge. I believe it. Harry, what do you think? Do you see Liverpool winning the title this season?
Your arguments are interesting, but I don't agree. For me, Liverpool are also in a rebuilding phase. A rebuilding phase that my favourite team for this season started a year ago. I know this is going to surprise a lot of people too, but in my opinion, Manchester United will win the Premier League. Erik ten Hag is doing a fantastic job as he changed the mentality of the team, demanding 200% from every player. Despite a large number of injuries, his first season as a United coach was a success, finishing third in the Premier League, and playing 2 Cups finals, winning 1. His average points per game is 2.16, and he made Old Trafford a fortress again. I don't think we realise that Manchester United haven't lost a game at home since September 8, 2022. This is crazy. With the signing of Mason Mount and the goalkeeper Andre Onana, Ten Hag is building a team able to play attractive football and controlling the game, with players he likes and fit his style of play. The biggest problem last season for United was the lack of a proper number 9. The future selling of some unused players like Harry Maguire or Scott McTominay would help United to buy a striker capable of scoring more than 30 goals a season. And if that's the case, I can see Old Trafford celebrating another title.
Wow, you seem convinced by United. And what do the bookmakers think? Do the odds favour Liverpool or Manchester?
If we refer to the odds offered on sportytrader.com, and in particular those of our partner Bet365, Manchester City is the first favourite with odds of 1.72. Arsenal are just behind with odds of 6. Liverpool have a better chance of winning than Manchester United as they have odds of 9. The Reds Devils have odds of 12, but sometimes you have to take risks, don't you?
Of course, but always moderate risks. What about the top 4 now?
The two Manchester clubs will finish in the top 2, with Man United winning the Premier League. Man City are a machine, with the best striker in the world, but I agree with you, the fact that they won it all last season might make some of the players lose motivation. Liverpool and Newcastle will complete the top 4. The Reds will be back in the Champions League places. Klopp's new recruits will fit perfectly into his system. Newcastle and Eddie Howe's project is very smart. The coach work has been amazing since his first day, especially his term of rotating the squad. No stars and lot of leaders, the players are all ready to give 200% in every games. Newcastle fans are also one of the best fans in the country, which will help the team in every game. So, here are the odds for my teams to be in the top 4. Manchester United, 1.72. Manchester City, 1.05. Liverpool, 1.53. Newcastle, 2.50.
Not bad. As explained before, for me, Liverpool will be champions. Man City remain Man City and should be able to secure second place. Arsenal, brilliant last season and with some quality recruits, will try to consolidate their position on the podium. I think that Man United are ahead of Newcastle, who could lose points by playing the Champions League, Chelsea and Tottenham, who are in the process of rebuilding. Ten Hag's men should secure a top 4 finish. So my top 4 is Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal and Manchester United. I'm not going to repeat the odds, which are the same as those you've already announced, except for Arsenal, who I see on the podium unlike you. The Gunners have odds of 1.50 to get into the top 4. Well, now that we've determined our top 4 and Champions League places, let's get on with qualifying for the other European competitions. Harry, who do you see qualifying for the Europa League and the Conference League?
I think that Arsenal and Chelsea are going to finish in the 5th and 6th position. I believe that Arsenal are going to struggle after their amazing season. Concerning Chelsea, the Blues can focus on the Premier League this year, but it might be too short for them to finish in the top 4 yet. They are in a rebuilding process and will need time to get back to the Champions League. I'd also bet on Unai Emery's Aston Villa qualifying for the Conference League. The Villains already finished 7th last season and could repeat their excellent season, and why not win the Conference League as well?
For my part, one can also see Chelsea qualifying for the Europa League. Christopher Nkunku, Nicholas Jackson and players like Mudryk and Enzo, bought last season and now more adapted, can make the difference this season. But as we explained, they need more time to get back into the top 4. Newcastle will finish 6th and join the Blues in the Europa League. The Champions League matches they will play this year could cost them a few key points in the league. I also see Aston Villa repeating last season's 7th place. Emery's men are a solid team and have made some great signings with Diaby, Pau Torres or Youri Tielemans. Now let's take a look at the teams likely to be relegated to the Championship. According to the experts on SportyTrader.com and based on the odds, the favourites to be relegated are Luton Town, Sheffield United and Bournemouth. What do you think? Who are your favourites to go down?
I do think that Luton Town dream won't last very long, unfortunately for them. For the first time in their history, they are going to play in the top division in England. The Premier League is a very tough league and Luton will need a miracle to stay in the Prem, especially with the smallest budget of the league. Rather than Bournemouth, I'd put Everton. They saved their spot in the Premier League in the last game of the season, 2 seasons in a row. Nothing really changed for the Toffees and that season might be the one for them. Sheffield United, like Luton Town and Burnley, are coming from the Championship. Very strong team with a lot of energy, but if I have to choose one more team to complete my relegation 3, that would be them. So, the odds for the teams I listed as relegated are Luton, 1.36, Everton, 4, Sheffield, 1.62.
For my part, I tend to agree with the odds. It seems obvious to everyone that Luton are the main candidates to go down. I also have Sheffield on my list. The Blades will have to fight hard to save themselves. My final candidate is Bournemouth with odds of 2.75. Very inconsistent last season, Bournemouth will struggle to keep their place in the top flight. Now let's look at the individual cases. Who do you think will be the Premier League's top scorer this season?
Erling Haaland will finish top scorer for the 2nd season in a row. The guy is a machine, as simple as that. He just think about scoring, and he does it. The Norwegian is the bookmaker's main favourite to finish top scorer with odds of 1.61.
Haaland seems an obvious choice. He's also my favourite. Now, next one. Who's going to give the most assists this season?
Bruno Fernandes. He's the player who creates the most chances in the Premier League. Man United are planning to buy a striker who could finally score goals and help Bruno finish the season with a lot of assists. The odds for the Portuguese finishing with the most assists are 11. Although it's obvious that Bruno will be in the running, and even though Kevin De Bruyne is the bookies' favourite, I've opted for Bukayo Saka with odds of 13. 11 assists for him last season, and he continues to surprise and progress game after game. He will undoubtedly be one of next season's big stars. Harry, now tell me who will be the best signing of the season. My choice is Mason Mount. He's the player who could help United become more efficient in terms of transitioning from defence to attack, from Erik ten Hag's own words. The pressure is massive on the new number 7, but I do think he's gonna have a big season for the Red Devils. For me it will be Alexis Mac Allister. I follow my idea of seeing Liverpool become champions, and I think that the Argentinian, who was incredible last season with Brighton and at the World Cup, is the player to watch this season. Finally, Harry, who will be the worst signing this season? It's probably surprising, but I think Kai Havertz will be disappointing. He is a very talented player, no doubt, but I don't think he's made for the Premier League. He doesn't have that anger. Mikel Arteta is still trying to figure out where he's gonna play him next season. I'm also opting for a player who cost €70 million this summer, but he's Italian and has just signed for Newcastle. As with Havertz, nobody doubts the quality of Sandro Tonali, but the player doesn't seem too keen on his arrival in England. Tonali may find it hard to adapt to the Premier League. And that's it. We've come to the end of our first SBC podcast by Sporty Trader. You now have everything you need to bet on the next Premier League season. And if you want to know more, don't hesitate to visit sportytrader.com. Thanks for your advices, Harry.
Thanks to you and thanks everyone. See you soon for a new SBC podcast.